It's a new year, and that often means new ideas, new diets, lots of new things. And today I was thinking, what about the good old things? So I'm going to take 2 good old recipes from my family and turn them into something new. When I was young, my mom used to make what was called a boiled dinner, which was ham, boiled potatoes, carrots, and some onions thrown in. And then my daughter and I love soups, especially cream soups, and I like cream of potato and leek, and so does she. So that's the 2 things we're going to mash together today. And a little nod to the Irish dish Kilkenny, which is basically made with potatoes and cabbage. So we're going to put all that together to make a delicious soup. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is prepare the leeks. Now when you watch on television, they tell you to slice the leek this way and then fan it out and rinse it in water to make sure you get all the grit out. But then it makes it hard to get fine slices afterwards. So I'm going to switch that up a little, and I am going to slice my leeks first. I'm going to take off this tough green stuff and just use the white and the lighter green. Actually, yeah, you can feel when you cut where the tender parts are. So I'm going to cut it first. And I'm going to cut it into 4s and then slice it very thin. And then I'm going to soak it in water to get all the grit and sand off and dirt, and then drain those. And it'll be the same result as what I see on TV, but a lot easier. So I'm going to keep going on these, and I'll be right back. Ready to start making the soup. As you can see, the leeks are all sliced up pretty fine. I've sliced the carrots as well. Now, carrots are not traditional to potato leek soup, but I like that addition. I've cubed my potatoes, and I've cubed the bacon. I've got minced garlic, minced parsley, 4 tablespoons of butter, some salt and pepper. And then we have our cabbage, also in thin slices. I'm going to throw in a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme. I'm not going to pull it off the stems because we'll just fish the whole thing out later. A cup of cream, and then chicken stock. And we're ready to go to the stove. I've got my pan over medium heat, and I'm going to start with the bacon. And we want the bacon for 2 important reasons. Number 1, I want that fat. It's going to be part of what we fry our leeks in. Number 2, we want that wonderful bacon flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and render this down and be back in a moment. The bacon is rendering nicely. Now, people have asked me, what brand of bacon do I use? I generally tend to get it directly from the butcher block. Our butcher has a lot of interesting flavors. There's a brown sugar one, there's a raspberry chipotle, this one's a black pepper. Those are all thick cuts, so sometimes what I choose is based on what's on sale. Just like sometimes when I go to the farmer's market, what looks good at the produce stand is what I will use as the decision for what I make for supper. Okay, and there's a debate on whether you should pull this out and drain it on some paper towels and sprinkle it on top at the end for crispy bits, or whether you should leave it in. Now, when the bacon is fatty, I tend to fry it up super crisp and set it aside to sprinkle at the end. This bacon is very lean, a lot more meat than fat, and it costs $2 less a pound than any of the packaged bacons. So now I'm going to add our butter. This is definitely not a diet dish. It's definitely a good, hearty winter dish. You could make it lighter. As I said, leave out the bacon and the butter and do all of this early work with some olive oil. But I said I'm going old school, so I'm going old school. Okay, I'm going to let that butter melt down. The butter's melted down. And now I'm going to add the leeks. Even though they're chopped very fine, leeks can be pretty tough. They need to cook a while. So that's why they're going in first. If you've never had leeks, they're like onion, but much milder. They're delicious if you roast them in the oven and then put on a butter sauce or a vinaigrette. So we're going to let those go for a bit till they start softening up. And as one of the early and one of my favorite TV chefs used to say, if only we had smell-o-vision. Leeks are starting to soften, and there was a lot of bacon fat and butter, but the leeks are starting to soak that up. So no worries about having a buttery, fatty dish. This is all going to blend together deliciously. I'm going to add our garlic. You always want to saute your garlic just for a bit, a minute or so, just to get it started, because garlic will burn very fast. And as I said, most of the fat has actually already been absorbed into my leeks. So I don't want to burn the garlic. It will make the entire soup taste like burned garlic. All right, in go my potatoes. Just going to give that a mix. It's already starting to look delicious. Now I'm going to add my chicken stock. I do use salt-free chicken stock, so I can control the amount of salt in anything. There is salt in the bacon. I'm going to add a little salt to the soup as well. If you can't get the salt-free chicken stock, you can use low-sodium chicken broth, and you may not need to add any extra salt to that. And you can see I'm adding the whole carton because these potatoes are going to soak it all up. I'm going to add just a bit of salt. And a bit of pepper. And my thyme. Oops, got a piece of cabbage in there. And we're going to turn this down and let it simmer for a bit. And then we'll add the carrots. Because the carrots are sliced thin, they will take less time to cook than these potatoes. And the cabbage will take the least amount of time to cook. So we're just going to let this simmer for a bit, and we'll be back. The leeks are already tender and the potatoes are on their way, so I'm going to go ahead and add the carrots. And I'm going to add the parsley. And I'm going to give that a couple more minutes, maybe 5 or 10, till those potatoes are almost done. I'm going to give the soup a taste for its salt level. Delicious. To me, it's got enough salt. My husband will probably add salt. My daughter often asks me, why don't you just leave the salt out and let everybody add it later? But there is something about cooking with at least a little bit of salt, especially something like potatoes or carrots, that the flavor actually gets into the vegetable and it's not just part of the broth. And we talked earlier about doing this vegan. Now I'm going to add cream to make it thick, but you can see the starch from the potatoes is already thickening this up beautifully. So you could totally make this a vegan dish and it'd be wonderful. I'm going to check the potatoes and see if they're just about done. They are very close to being done. So now it's time to add the cabbage. And as I was putting away the rest of the cabbage, because I only used a quarter of that head, I found a single stalk of celery in my refrigerator. So I decided to chop it up, and I'm going to add it here. I like to add celery toward the end because I want it to stay a little firm and not have mushy celery. And that's one of the joys of home cooking. You can do whatever you want. You can change it up ahead of time or as you're in the middle of it. You can see it's getting quite thick here. I'm going to give the cabbage about 5 minutes or so to get soft, and then I'll be adding the cream. The potatoes are done. I'm going to go ahead and fish out the thyme. And we're going to add our cream. And I got the heat turned back up a little. I just want to bring this cream up to temperature. We really don't need to cook this anymore. Just want to get the cream warm, and it will thicken up just a little bit. And then it'll be time to eat. The soup is ready. Time to dish up. We've got the beautiful potatoes, carrots, the bits of bacon, the broth has gotten thicker. It's almost like a chowder. And then to make it just that little bit more decadent, as if it weren't rich enough, a little bit of cheese on top. And a slice of toasty garlic bread. And we are ready to eat. And maybe just a little bit of fresh parsley on top to bring it to life. Little color, but also a little freshness. And that is one beautiful bowl of soup. Got my bowl of soup, my crusty bread, a glass of wine, and my husband to share it with. Dinner is served.